Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Julia from the Cosmic Peach podcast. First, a couple of announcements. Check out our website, which is forbiddenknowledge.news. It is also the home of the Forbidden Knowledge Network. That's where we feature some of your favorite podcasts. You can always get every new episode of Forbidden Knowledge News on Rokfin, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Sign up on Rokfin. That is where you get our premium content, as well as all the premium content from every amazing creator on Rokfin. Just go to rokfin.com/FKN+, or use the link right in the description. The Forbidden documentary first episode is available for you to download. It is a limited edition special version that you won't be able to see on Amazon Prime or the other streaming platforms when it arrives there. So be sure to check that out. You can download that by going to our website or clicking that link right in the description. Today I want to welcome Julia. She is the host of Cosmic Peach podcast. She brings a unique perspective to all things that go bump in the night, exploring the fringe and unthinkable, cryptids, true crime, paranormal activity, conspiracy theories, and the most ancient of mysteries. Julia, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's great to have you. This is going to be super fun. Been looking forward to this. And when you sent me topic ideas, I thought, why not explore multiple topics on yet another edition of Conspiracy Buffet? That's right. On Conspiracy Buffet, we explore many of the famous or lesser known conspiracies. Maybe we might even make up a few tonight. We'll see how it goes. And lately, it seems that more and more of these conspiracies appear to be coming true as time passes, so we're in very fun times right now. Before we get to anything, though, let the audience know a little bit about yourself. It's your first time on, your background, and your podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So my name is Julia. I host the Cosmic Peach podcast, and I cover paranormal conspiracy theories and anything you can imagine related to those topics. I am on all major podcast platforms and YouTube, but I don't put every episode out on YouTube for obvious reasons. Just a more mild side of things on YouTube. But I'm cosmic.peach.podcast on Instagram. And I hope to become a repeat offender here on your show because I've definitely been looking forward to this conversation as well.
Excellent. Awesome. So let's get into this. Conspiracy Buffet. We're going to run through some of our favorite conspiracies, maybe some new things that are popping up in the news lately. And I think that's a good place to start. UFOs are apparently real. Aliens are apparently real. Now, this used to be one of my favorite topics until our government and mainstream media started telling me that aliens are real. And they obviously don't have the best track record of ever telling the truth about anything. Now, of course, there's propaganda throughout. There's mixes of truth probably in some of this information, but there's more questions than answers as usual. And we just had this congressional hearing, which I don't know what to say about it. It's very interesting, but let's get your thoughts. What do you think, first of all, in aliens in general? What are your thoughts?
So I started my podcast because I was very intrigued by the title of my podcast, Cosmic Peach. I've since changed a lot of my opinions on that because I've been looking into flat earth, and it doesn't matter if you're a round earther, flat earther, whatever. We can all agree that there are levels to the deception, and it just depends on how far you want to go into that. But I am an advocate for the firmament and flat earth. So if they're not aliens coming from Mars, what are they really? And how did they get here? What is the technology? And I think that we're dealing with something that's anciently old, but not from another species. I think that if you look into a biblical standpoint, a lot of the technology that they're rolling out now was around during the time of Atlantis, when the giants were roaming the earth. Ancient Egypt, there are ziggurats in Babylon and all these places around the world where you see ancient technology being used. So they've had it all this time, but it's been forbidden, if you will, and they're trying to introduce it into society in small chunks. I think that we're dealing with fallen angel technology. I don't necessarily believe in the existence of extraterrestrials or aliens from another planet, but I do think that it's fallen angel technology, and they're tapping into some shit at these deep underground military bases, which are just code words for portals. They're tapping into different dimensions. They're gaining knowledge from somewhere, and they're applying it to make these craft that we're seeing. They know what they're doing. It's been told in 1,000 movies in Hollywood that you know, they're tapping into some different energy. They're getting answers from somewhere else. And even Nikola Tesla is on record saying he was channeling, hearing voices in his head coming from where? Demons, ghosts, aliens, whatever you want to call it. It's coming from something else. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but
well, there's a common theme, just like you said, of this channeling, whatever type of entity. One of my favorite is the channeling of the Nine, where Gene Roddenberry was part of these elite groups that would channel these interdimensional beings that would give information about the past and future. Very incredible experiences that these people were having through these types of seances. And I'm with you. I think that this is definitely more of a interdimensional, spiritual, metaphysical type of experience. I've had my own, what you would call sort of contact experiences, and these were very spiritual experiences for me. But I don't discount anyone else's experiences. There are very profound experiences where people are saying that this is a very physical thing, and they have these vivid memories. The problem is we never get any physical proof. We never get any type of physical evidence with any of this. And there's also the speculation that there is very high level involvement from our military industrial complex to perpetuate the UFO alien agenda, possibly even to the extent of abducting people and faking a lot of the experiences to get people to believe that.
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
It's because they want this Project Blue Beam, quote unquote, to come into fruition. And they would love for everyone to believe in something like that because it would go along with their agenda. But I think in the instances where people are having physical experiences, being abducted, seeing beings, there are what I call on my show empty biological vessels for the spirits of these interdimensional beings, entities, fallen ones to inhabit, to interact on the physical plane. So if you're talking about grays, that would make sense to me because they can manufacture a biological vessel that looks very real, but it's just a host for the spirit of one of these entities, beings, whatever, to inhabit, to be able to interact in our world. So when you hear about physical experiences, I believe it. I believe they saw something. I believe they may have been abducted, whatever, but it's all part of a larger experiment. And I do think that there is military involvement in that. I know that there has been experiences documented such as Travis Walton and Fire in the Sky, kind of seeing gray entities, but then later seeing beings that look like you and I, but their eyes are super blue and they have real blonde hair, and they call those the Aryans or whatever they want to label those. And I again think that there's a lot of eugenics and also genetic experimentation going on. I think that they can have beings that look like whatever, dog people or Mothman people or big feet. They're like experiments, and they're testing it out to see what can be used. So you may be freaked out if you saw a gray or a dog person or a Bigfoot, but you may be able to digest it easier if you saw something that looked like you and I, but maybe just a little bit different biological features. So I think it's just a massive grand experiment. Sure, they're probably abducting people. They probably need eggs. They probably do need sperm. They're making people in tubes and like all this crazy shit. But if you go down that rabbit hole, it's like never ending. It just keeps going and going and going. And then at the end, you're like, I'm fucking crazy.
Well, you mentioned some magical words there, some of these cryptid creatures that I am right in the midst of shooting a docuseries about some of these creatures, mainly in the Louisiana area. And the possibility that these are some sort of chimeras or experiment by our military-industrial complex has come up numerous times from numerous people, and I've considered this as well. It would be a very simple and possible explanation for these creatures. I've heard from different whistleblowers testimony that some of these beings had escaped from certain underground facilities and either attacked people, things of that nature. So that's very interesting to consider. You think that all these cryptids, too, are hybrid chimera beings?
So I've had, and some of your listeners may be familiar with him. His name is Gary Wayne.
Yeah, I had him on the other day.
Yeah, he's the author of the Genesis 6 conspiracy, and we talk a lot about the Nephilim, but I did a lot of research on my own to try to troubleshoot, if you will, some of the questions that I get asked a lot by my listeners, and one of them was Big Feet and Mothman and Dogman, and in the Bible, it does state that the fallen ones had families not only with human women, but with animals. And so if you could imagine what a fallen angel and a dog would look like, or a fallen angel and a ape
primate of some sort,
or whatever a fallen angel and a horse would look like, you may get Big Feet and Dogmen and bird-headed beings and dog-headed beings and unicorns and all these things that are seen throughout time, because you do see them throughout time. So that makes sense to me. But I also think that they are doing experiments to kind of hijack these creatures. So let's say that they're interdimensional, that they have interdimensional capabilities like their parents, the fallen angels, would have. So they're able to go in and out of realities. And this is just naturally occurring. They have this ability to do that. They get hijacked and they are experimented on for the benefit of whatever program they're needing for. So a lot of the experiments that they do are to make them aggressive, kind of like a weapon against humanity. Because a lot of Bigfoot encounters you hear, they're just passing through, collecting berries, and you never find them. You go look for them, they're gone. But then some of the Dogman stories you hear, they're super aggressive. They want to rip your head off. They're demonic in nature, this and that. So you almost have to wonder, are they programming these creatures to do their bidding? Or is it kind of a mix, and some are naturally occurring and some have been produced in a lab or whatever? I mean, there's so many different camps on that.
Yeah, and I've even considered the possibility that what we consider paranormal activity in many aspects could be some sort of grand trickster intelligence that knows how to manifest into our perception based on what our awareness will allow, or based on what they want us to perceive it as. Have you ever thought about that possibility?
Absolutely. I think that the last few years, especially after COVID hit, the veil between our world and other dimensions is very, very thin. I think that kind of like what they said in Ghostbusters. I know it's funny, but they're in the car talking about the apocalypse and the end of the world and how the dead will rise from the grave and blah, blah, blah. But it's so real because I feel like activity has picked up these last few years. And is it your dead loved ones? Maybe. A lot of people do think that it could be residual or an intelligent haunting or whatever. Maybe you are seeing the deceased spirit of a human being. Or is it an entity that has crossed over and assumed the likeness of someone you would feel comfortable with? So it may look like grandma or grandpa or mom or dad or whoever, but is it really, or are entities just kind of freely crossing from our plane to the next? And another thing that I've thought about is when you go to some of these abandoned and asylums and mental facilities and places where people have been tortured or died in terrible ways, tuberculosis hospitals, why is the activity so heavy there? And it's because people were usually in a petrified state when they died. So there's a lot of energy for those entities to feed off of. So of course they're going to have an easier time entering into a place like that, prisons and insane asylums, than it would be at your grandma's house, which your grandma's house might be haunted, I don't know. But they seem to feed on a lot of toxic energy. So yeah, I'm again on the fence between two things there, because I've had paranormal experiences myself, so I'm conflicted.
Well, let me add one more theory to this bucket, one more possibility that I consider often, and it leads to simulation theory, holographic universe. It's the possibility that if we are avatars here, and just like a video game, our essence or our spirit is outside of this, and we're controlling these avatars to a certain extent. What if certain spiritual experiences, profound paranormal experiences, are a sort of like cheat code because we're screwing up so badly? We're just eating shit and we're going the wrong direction and we're outside the simulation. We're like, no, give this guy a Bigfoot. He needs, give this guy a demonic experience. He needs to snap out of this shit. Yeah. So that's something else interesting.
No, I like that. I like that. I had not considered that. It's like a game for them. We have to level up to get to the next boss. I got you. So that's very true. I talk a lot on my show about kind of like us being in the Truman Show. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely a possibility. And some of the paranormal experiences I had were, like you said, profound. They did change me in a way because I started realizing there's more than just punching a clock 9 to 5 and you go to work, you come home, you go to sleep. There's this whole astral realm that's going on at all times around us. And I used to see actually my living loved ones walking around my house, and I would call out to them and be like, hey, Brooke, for example, my cousin Brooke, I'd be like, hey, Brooke, what's up? And looked just like her, looked her in the eye, everything, talked like her, walked like her, smelled like her. And then I would find out later that she had been in her room asleep the whole time, that she had never been in the kitchen, that we never had that conversation. So it was like, who was I talking to? And that happened several times. But if they can assume the identity of a living person, or let's say it's a glitch in the matrix, I know it happened because I'm not crazy. And other people saw me, for example, and I would say, no, I wasn't even home. I was at work. That wasn't me. So is it just hot spots? Maybe you built a house accidentally on a ley line, oopsie, my bad.
Maybe so.
You
Or
know?
it could be like the multiverse theory where there's multiple realities occurring at one time and there are bleed throughs for whatever reason from these different realities. That's also interesting.
Yes, for sure. No, I agree with you. It's fucked up either way.
It is. Now, I want to go back to something that we were touching on, the military industrial scientific aspect of creating horrible creatures and experiments. And I know you cover a lot of interesting things when it comes to celebrities. So, do you believe that we have cloned celebrities, cloned world leaders, cloned politicians, things of that nature?
Abso-fucking-lutely, I believe that. Oh my gosh, they're walking amongst us. And I also do a lot of stuff on inverted Hollywood, but that might be for another episode because that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But yes, and I actually just posted an episode on my Patreon for They Cloned Tyrone. It's a new movie that's out on Netflix. Yes. And I did, it was about an hour and a half episode, solo episode, just me talking about my thoughts on that movie. And I do believe that they use Hollywood or Netflix or Disney Plus, whatever streaming platform you'd like to choose, to give us an aspect of the truth that's a little bit maybe more fantastical than what it really is, but they sprinkle just a little bit in there. So you are becoming normalized to this idea that something to this degree could maybe be happening in real life. And that movie, I don't know, have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw it the other day.
Pretty fucked, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and more lately, they blatantly show you the truth about these situations in such a fantastical way that it can be automatically dismissed by those that are watching these things. And that's more and more, like so many films lately, just in the past, just since COVID, it seemed to be ramping up, like they're even just throwing it in our faces a little bit more.
Think about that scene with the fucking chicken bucket. How many times have they put some shit like that in fast food? I talk about all the time. Fast food restaurants are the biggest procurer of glitter. What are they doing with that amount of glitter? And when I saw that scene in the movie, I got almost kind of chills because it is MSG, whatever. You eat it and then you crave it and it changes your brain chemistry when you're eating it. They especially sprinkle some shit on McDonald's fries. I know that for sure. There's something in the salt that they use.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I mean, yeah, it's in a movie. That was a kind of a funny part, whatever. But it's not actually funny because you are still eating it at Taco Bell, KFC, Popeyes, whatever. And there was a lot of subtle hints in that movie as well, as far as you see a commercial on TV, you automatically start craving that food. Think about that.
Yeah, it's the spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen this. What they portrayed in this movie has actually been done by three-letter agencies and military-industrial complex to certain groups of people, to certain neighborhoods, to certain cities. They focus on these experimental test areas where, for whatever reason, they pick out a certain demographic of people.
Yep.
Or any type of reason that they want to observe what is happening from either a chemical that they're spraying on people, some sort of other sick social experiments, mind control, frequencies, anything like that.
It's separate
is still
and
being
conquer.
done.
You know, you have to separate and then conquer. If you get people warring amongst each other, they'll never find out who the real villain is because they'll always be fighting amongst each other. And my husband is Black, and as a conspiracy theorist, we've had a number of very interesting conversations within the last couple of years. And something that I'm waking him up to the reality of is things that are marketed towards like, hey, this is for you, Black people, is just a huge propaganda thing that's got nothing to do with the benefit of Black people. And he used to argue with me about that, but he's slowly kind of waking up to that. And I provide examples, or I'll say, look at this, look at this. And he's kind of seeing it now. But it's almost like they do it in such a way that they're offering something to you that you want or need, or this is for me, this is special because it's targeted just for me. And it's like, no, you should be worried when it's specifically targeted just for you. Because
100%.
like I always say, if just as a broad example, if Black people and white people can never get along, they can never join forces to fucking figure out what the fuck's really going on, right?
That is one of the largest tactics to keep us as far away from each other, far right, far left, Black, white, gay, straight. As long as we are arguing and fighting with each other about these mundane, unimportant things that we should not even focusing on, as long as we're arguing about these things, we don't come together and we don't share the truth and ideas. And that is what they're afraid of most of all, is everybody coming together.
Dude, have you ever looked into Fred Hampton?
Fred Hampton. It sounds familiar, but
so he was an activist in the 60s that was assassinated, and his whole main thing was joining together the lower income neighborhoods of, let's say, Detroit and some of these more impoverished areas with more of the white population. And that was his whole goal, is to start integrating lives. And he would advocate for unity, not separation, or not like, oh, we're better than anybody. He would actually go to court, and he was on trial actually and testified. And I have a snippet on one of my episodes of the speech that he gave. And he said, they want us to hate each other. They want us to fight amongst each other. They want you to think the Black man is the enemy or the white man is the enemy. And that is to distract you from realizing that the person at the top is really the enemy. And he was gunned down and shot in his apartment, and they like blew his head off. And they actually had drugged him prior to this, waited for him to fall asleep, followed him back to his apartment, and freaking blew him away. And there's this whole conspiracy behind it. People really need to look into it. It's totally profound. And think about if...
And one more time, what was this dude's name?
His name was Fred Hampton. And think about if they were doing this in the 60s, do you think it's changed now, or do you think it just looks a little different?
That's what I was just talking about, this very thing earlier. We have technology now, and I completely 100% believe that what was being done in the days of the MK Ultra experiments is being implemented and rolled out to the masses right now via technology, pharmaceuticals, propaganda, and other mind control techniques that were perfected in the 50s and 60s, and now just being rolled out to the masses, because that's what it was always about, mind controlling everyone.
Yeah, and it started to get into the works in the 60s. I know for sure because I've done a lot of research on the Laurel Canyon and the counterculture movement and Tavistock and some of the like, but I also think that we are, as a world, being clockworked orange like you would fucking believe. And they actually made a Clockwork Orange reference in this new They Clone Tyrone movie, where they're holding the chick's eyes open and flashing stuff in front of her face. That's not a joke. That's not cinema. That really happens. And when you watch TV, there's actually something that triggers in your mind, and you can't tell the difference between what's happening in reality and what's happening on a screen. Your mind perceives it as reality. So when you see traumatic events taking place on TV, you are becoming traumatized. It is the same Clockwork Orange bullshit, but I think it started even before that, because when you go back to Hitler and the Nazis and Project Paperclip, they took all of those really upper echelon Nazi scientists and brought them the fuck over here and started letting them conduct all these experiments. And to get back to a more like paranormal aspect of that, who did Hitler say that he was channeling? He was channeling the Vril, these blonde-haired, blue-eyed entities who would tell him that he had to do certain things in order to get what? Technology.
100%.
So it all goes in a big circle. There is an interdimensional aspect to this. There is a spiritual aspect to this, but it's also integrated into government and into culture. So it's all one big part of the puzzle.
Yeah, and also Hollywood and the media are the biggest weapons that are being used against the people right now. They always have been. That's what they were developed for. Now we have social media to add to that. And of course, we see the targeting of the children in many different disgusting ways. But you mentioned inverted Hollywood. This is such an important part of the propaganda and mind control. And the best way to portray a false narrative is the marriage between the CIA and Hollywood, which has also been around since the onset.
Oh,
this is something that is so important for people to realize. When they're mindlessly watching the TV, when they're tuning into the news, when they're watching anything that comes across that screen has been pre-approved for your consumption for propaganda. And that is it. And everything that we see, we need to think of it like a fast food commercial, that everything we're seeing is a bunch of fakery and we can't trust any of it. They do tell the truth sometimes, but that's the way propaganda works. You have to sprinkle in the truth in with the lies if it was going to be effective.
Yeah, well, have you noticed how people have calmed way the fuck down since COVID hasn't been like a thing for a few months or like a year? So when COVID was on and popping, everybody was looking for your show, my show, a conspiracy show, because deep down, they knew there was something more going on than just a bad virus that just got fucked off from this bat that had fucking diarrhea all over some guy. Like, they knew that it was more than that. But now that COVID has calmed down, you don't have to social distance as much. You can go back out to the bars. You can go back to work without wearing your mask, whatever. The vaccine shit's calmed down. People don't care anymore. And this is the problem. Don't get upset when there's a problem immediately. You need to maintain that fire, even if there's not a problem. So I have this kind of metaphor that I use with Christians, because they only pray when they need something, but they don't want to be a Christian when everything's going well in their life, because they don't need God because everything's going well in their life. But the second shit hits the fan, they're on their hands and knees and they're praying and God help me please. And that's the same thing with what the government has done to us. They squeeze us really, really tight, and then they let loose a little bit, and we're like, oh, thank God that's over with. Let's get back to normal. And then they'll squeeze it really tight again, and then they'll let loose. And what we're trying to get people to understand is this is conditioning. It's like an abusive relationship. You know, how many times are you going to let your boyfriend punch you in the face and then be all sweet and nice, and you get back together with him and he swears he's going to change this time, and then he punches you again? How many times do we have to get knocked down before we start realizing that the only solution to this problem is a constant revolt against tolerance?
Do you think this is strictly a control move? There's multiple purposes for what's happened since 2020. Depopulation, eugenics, control, rollout of new currency, social credit system. These are all obvious to us, some of the agendas that are going on. But do you think that there's something, a bigger picture that we're not seeing that could be possibly another reason why this is all happening right now?
Well, yeah, I'm more of the mindset leaning towards Christianity that all these events need to happen in order to bring about revelation. So all of these events have to come about to bring the end of times to fruition. Whether you are a Christian or not, every religion talks about it. They talk about how in the end of time, this will happen. Wake up, people. Look around you. We're in the fucking middle of it right now. We're in the fucking middle of it. So whether you want to say it's the Christian aspect of it, Buddha, whatever, you're Muslim, I'm not judgmental in any aspect of that. But all I'm saying is every prophetic vision of the end of the world is very, very similar. And no matter which one you read, it looks like we're in the middle of it. Child sacrifice, chopping our genitals off, and XYZ. But I think the next stop is literally cannibalism. They want to have it like Zombieland for real in this motherfucker. You're about to see them putting human meat into shit. And whether you know it or not, you're eating actual human flesh. Fast food restaurants, namely.
Yeah. Well, the attempt to alter humanity on a genetic level has been being implemented for a long time. They've been trying to change us through like I said, pharmaceuticals, the food, the air we breathe. And it seems like they're moving towards an agenda to get people to stop eating meat altogether. And they have Klaus telling us to eat the bugs, but you're saying they could go to something like feeding us human meat?
Yeah, I think it could be impossible meat, to be honest with you. Have you ever tried it?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, my God. So before I started my conspiracy theory journey, it was new at Qdoba, which I didn't know this, but a lot of places don't have a Qdoba. Qdoba's like Chipotle, or you go and you build a bowl or a burrito, whatever. And they had rolled out this impossible meat type of thing, and it was lower calories and blah, blah, blah. They really sell it to you as more of a healthy alternative. It's plant-based. And so I was like, yeah, let me just put it in my bowl. Let's see what it's talking about. Let me try it. Dude, that shit will give you like the splatty flatulence, fucking gas, fucking cramps. You'll be in the fetus position, like holding your stomach, like, what did I just do to myself? And then the more research I do, it feels like it's either chemical or maybe it's actual human meat, something to that effect, where your body has no idea how to process that. None, zero idea. It makes you actually sick.
Now, they spent a lot of time and effort and money on the COVID and the jabs that followed. There's some that speculate that this attempt is not over, that we may see a much worse version of COVID in the future or something along those lines. What do you think about that possibility?
I think that they'll actually try to bring back OG COVID. In my opinion, I think they'll try to bring back OG COVID because we're used to that. We're okay with that. What I think that it really will be is some bizarre side effect from the people who got the stabbies.
Right.
So I think that's more likely. What would be more terrifying, though, is something that affects the skin, as far as the plagues of Egypt, the boils and sores, like the monkeypox. That would be more terrifying. And I do feel like that would fulfill prophecy. for it to be boils and sores or some type of leprosy, where your limbs are actually falling off, kind of like a zombie land type of scenario. I think
Jeez.
that would fulfill prophecy, but they will most likely bring back some kind of COVID and try to make it scarier. I do know that there is a weird influx of mosquitoes, gnats, flies, ticks, fleas, and it's been reported all over the country. Massive influx of mosquitoes, gnats, flies, any type of weird, creepy crawly. I actually just watched a video not too long ago where someone was riding their bicycle from home to work in New York, I believe. And by the time they got to work, their face, clothes, beard, hair, everything was covered in gnats.
Oh.
Covered in gnats. And so could the insects actually be biologically engineered to give us some type of a weird disease? I know that if you get West Nile, it's a lot like COVID. So that's interesting to me. It's a bad flu. West Nile is just a really bad flu.
Yeah. That
has COVID-like symptoms. You know, you're short of breath. You have the coughing, sneezing, congestion, whatever, sore throat, fever, sometimes a skin rash, which was also associated with COVID. And could they be engineering mosquitoes?
Well, if they did roll out another COVID, it'd be pretty convenient if they were able to affect everyone that's already got the stabbies to mimic another horrible disease, maybe even worse than COVID, to where it would have an effect that people would actually be dying and we'd be witnessing this, other than just hearing about it on the news with these fake stories that they were showing us. So that is another thing.
The only people that I know that died from getting quote unquote COVID were tubed up in the hospital.
Yeah, yes, 100%.
You know, that was induced death. That wasn't like I got really bad pneumonia and got fucked up and died. That was like an intentional death, getting tubed for no fucking reason at all. Ventilators and shit like that. Oh, we can't pull them off the ventilator. I do know people who died of quote unquote COVID, but it was so bizarre. Like they just had a really bad fever or headache or something. They went to the emergency room, immediately placed on a ventilator.
Well, that's another thing. They went to the emergency room. Seems like most of the deaths happen to people who are actually going seek medical attention for it.
Yeah, and you know what else? This is an interesting story. Let's just be vague for privacy purposes, but someone in my life, husband, was out in the yard fixing her car. And there was something wrong with it. He was taking the engine out and putting it back together in the car. He grabbed his chest, fell over in the driveway, stroked out, died. She called 911. They picked him up, put him on a gurney, took him back to the ER, pronounced him dead at arrival, wrote on his death certificate, died due to COVID.
Yeah, that's about right.
And this is not a friend of a girl who I kind of knew's boyfriend's husband, whatever. This is someone I know very personally whose husband died of most likely a stroke or a heart attack. And on their death certificate was written COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was happening across the board in many situations. Any type of death was being ruled a COVID death. And that was how they got the fear and all the numbers to be inaccurate, and people believed it. So I don't think that part can go. I did. I got it, and it was like a pretty bad cold for 2 days. Although it was later in the game, it was late last year. So whatever it was, maybe had a chance for it to become less strong. But I did get something, and I don't know if this is really something that's contagious. I am neither germ theory nor terrain theory. I consider both options, but I think it's possibility that there could be something frequency-based with this as well.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up because I actually have a lot to say on the terrain theory.
Hmm.
Um, I did get COVID. I have not been stabbed, jabbed, flabbed, none
Oh
of that
no.
shit. I am a pure blood, and so I did get COVID, but I was working at the hospital at the time. I was working at a really big hospital around here. I have since quit. I do not work in the medical industry anymore. But it was when COVID had just came out and they were um making us all get the flu shot because you don't want the flu and COVID. And anyways, when you work in the medical industry, it is mandatory that you get the flu shot. So I had gotten it before, whether I liked it or not. I had to provide an income for my family. So I usually got the flu shot. So I got the flu shot that year, immediately got sick with COVID. I think it came from the flu shot. That is my opinion.
Mm.
I had never had anything like I had never been so sick in my life.
Hmm.
They did the whole ramming the shit up my nose. It felt like they scraped my fucking eyeball doing the test. And they came back, "Oh, you definitely you got COVID real bad." I lost my smell and taste for 3 months.
Whoa.
Tell me that's not chemically induced.
That is. Now, I could tell this was something different than just a regular cold or flu because of the way I felt. It was only 2 days, but the chills were so deep it felt like it was vibrating from inside my bones, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
feeling was not natural, not like the flu feeling is natural by any means, but it was different than any cold or flu. Although some of the symptoms were similar, luckily I didn't lose my taste or smell though.
Dude, I lost my taste and smell in October. So I had to go through Thanksgiving, my birthday, Christmas, and New Year's with no taster or smeller.
Oh man, that's awful.
You want to talk about like suicidal? I was like, I cried over an Arby's beef and cheddar,
Oh
which,
man.
I'm not an advocate of fast food, but at the time, I just wanted anything. And I was so sick. And my husband went through Arby's. He got me a beef and cheddar sandwich. And I was sitting there at the kitchen table crying over it. I couldn't taste dick hole. Like, I literally could not taste anything for 3 months. So I've never been so sick that that's ever happened. I'm actually a relatively healthy person. I take a shitload of supplements. Obviously, as a conspiracy theorist, I'm big into supplements. But what I wanted to say about the terrain theory is that I do think there is some credence to that. I do think that when you are around people, it can influence your vibration into becoming sick as well. And I know that's true because, perfect example, I started a new job. Suddenly, all the females at my new job were syncing up to the same period. And we knew this because we all wanted to kill each other about once a month. And then we started realizing that we were on the same cycle. So being in another person's, like a fishbowl, you're in the same frequency of those other people. You don't have to like them, but you work with them. You're there 8 hours a day with them, 5 days a week. You're home 2 days at your personal leisure, but you're around them 5 days, 8 hours a day. You're home 4 hours at night and 8 hours with them. You think that they're not going to rub off on you? You're fucking wrong. So maybe it's not something that's being passed around the office. Oh, Jenny got the flu, and then Tracy and Debbie and Michael got the flu. Maybe you're just all swimming in the same fishbowl.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
I've considered that possibility, that whatever people are experiencing that they understand as being sick, having a cold or flu, is just your body's reaction to these negative either parasites or toxins that are frequency based, and it's your body's way of attempting to clean itself out or get rid of this stuff. And
A toxic overload.
Yes, it just appears to be like a cold or flu.
Yes, and I damn, I'm just gonna sound like a fucking invalid at this point, but like at the beginning of this year in February, I was really, 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 really sick. And I went to the urgent care because I thought I was going to actually fucking die or something.
Oh, man.
And they tested me for the flu and strep and this and that. Like, my throat was so sore, I was spitting in a cup because I couldn't swallow my own saliva. Like, that's how bad my throat hurt. And they didn't do anything for me per usual. They said that I had flu A and B, and that I also probably maybe could have strep throat. So they said it just needed to run its course. And, you know, they charged my insurance a ton, did nothing for me. And I went home and I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? So I texted my health girl, Kelly. She is all about holistic healthcare. And she was so disappointed in me that I even went to the urgent care. Because she was like, you should have just called me. I would have told you what was wrong with you. And she said, you're in a toxic overload. Whatever you've been doing, you've triggered a toxic overload. And she compared the human body to an empty glass. And when you start filling it with water, you fill it up with water, fill it up, fill it up, fill it up. You get to the rim, and then you keep filling it up, it overflows. And when your body overflows with toxins, it's trying to purge them. So you end up getting sick, whether it's the flu-like symptoms or whatever. That's just a toxic overload. So I just started a straight up detox. I did a colon cleanse. I did a liver flush. I did all this stuff. I put those fucking foot patches on that suck all the shit out of your feet.
Yeah.
And went outside, walked around barefoot, sat in the sun. And what do you know? 2 days, I'm back wonderfully healthy again, back to work, back to my normal routine. My throat cleared up, fever gone. And it just goes to show you that the pretend school that they go to, these doctors, they don't even know what the fuck is really going on with the human body.
Yeah, the medical and pharmaceutical industry is designed to keep us perpetual customers, always in a state of unhealthiness, with the illusion that what they're doing for us could even possibly just mask the symptom, which sometimes it does, but what it causes is extreme problems in every other aspect of your health. So it is all a trap, and it's all a nefarious agenda to keep us perpetually going back to them.
Well, yeah, and it's also mental health as well, because if they can get you addicted to a pharmaceutical, which is all based on petrol, they're treating us like cars. All pharmaceuticals are petrol based. And so when you're taking them, they're reaping the benefits, obviously financially, and you're getting addicted to something. So you'll have to keep coming back to get more. And I was talking to someone that I work with recently, and she said, I just don't feel the same when I don't have my... It was like one of those really old antidepressants, like Prozac or Wellbutrin or one of these weird ones. And I said, really? And she said, yeah, like I just feel too much when I don't take it. I'm like sad and like irregular and moody and this. And so she wants to feel numb is what I heard. And she said, the only thing that worries me about it is I've kind of been looking into some of the stuff that you've been talking about on your podcast, because I am an advocate of listen to my podcast and wake the fuck up. And I had done a lot on fluoride. And she said, I actually was kind of looking into the fluoride thing, and you're right. You know, it actually decays your teeth, and it's actually really not good for you. And she said, the number one active ingredient in the Wellbutrin is fluoride. Huh. And so I told her that back in the day, it used to be a common practice to physically lobotomize someone, lobotomize them. They can't do that anymore. That's a taboo, ancient, caveman practice. But what they can do is chemically lobotomize you. So that's why when you take it, you feel numb, like a zombie. You can't really think for yourself. You're not very reactive or emotional because you're in a zombie-like state. And then when you're stopping taking them, all those feelings rush back in, and your body's trying to regulate itself, and you don't like that feeling because you haven't felt for so long. It's an overwhelming amount of emotions. But I think that any antidepressant, Xanax, whatever, it's got a shit ton of fucking fluoride in it. And what they're trying to do is literally chemically lobotomize you.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been an ongoing thing for a very long time. The attempts to, like I was talking earlier, just genetically and physically alter everything that we are. This is also contributing to the depopulation aspect because it's all these chemicals and pharmaceuticals have been sterilizing people. And now you have the transhuman agenda on top of all that, which is targeting people at the young age so that eventually they will want to mutilate themselves to where it would be impossible for them to have children either way. So,
but I think it's psychological as well, because if you talk to some of these people, they really genuinely feel like they're the opposite sex or whatever it is. And actually, I really wanted to get to the bottom of it. So I talked to this person who's conflicted about their gender, and they are actually in their 40s and just now started feeling conflicted about their gender. And it's someone, again, in my family. So as a conspiracy theorist, I really wanted to get their mindset behind that. And I think we have been bombarded at an exceptional rate with hormones in our water and food that actually make you feel like you are another gender than what you are. So I don't think they're faking it in any way.
Right.
I think it's an actual assault on what it means to have your own hormones produced by your body. Because I can't imagine waking up tomorrow and being like, oh, I really wish I had a dick. I really wish I could just cut my tits off and fucking, like, I really want to understand the mindset behind that. Or if you're a man, you wake up and you feel like, I really want to wear makeup and put a dress on or whatever. And it's because they're drinking estrogen. They're drinking things that endocrine disruptors, things that are disrupting their thyroid is shut down. They're not producing their own hormones anymore.
I've long said that they are causing mental illness in our modern society by these chemicals in the water, by the pharmaceuticals. But not only that, now they're trying to normalize different aspects of mental illness by putting certain people in positions of authority, celebrities, politics that are completely fucking nuts. And they're saying, hey, look at how it's okay to act these days. This is an example of the extreme behavior you can display and be considered a contributing member of society.
Dude, have you seen the amount of people on Facebook who post about their mental illness and they get patted on the back like they're a hero or something?
Yes.
It makes me feel kind of weird about it because they'll be like, I haven't cleaned my house in 3 months and I'm really I'm going through it, dishes piling up, laundry. And then you look at the comment section, it's like, it's okay, girl. We've all been there. We all, you're a hero. Congrats. Like you're so brave to come out and talk about this. And no one wants to address the issue that this person has probably been bombarded with chemicals that have shut their thyroid down, that have probably chemically lobotomized this person, that they don't have the capacity to feel emotions anymore. Nobody wants to talk about that, the root cause of what's causing mental illness, quote unquote. They just want to talk about what a hero you are for saying that you have it. That's a problem. 100%. That is a problem.
Yeah. Now, we got a few minutes left. I want to go back to the propaganda and Hollywood aspect a bit. You mentioned inverted Hollywood, and I believe I completely understand what you mean by that. I want to get into that a little bit. But what's happened lately with Hollywood, with what we're seeing on Netflix and these streaming platforms, it seems like there are people in droves that are checking out from this type of entertainment that are not interested anymore because of the extreme propaganda. I mean, hell, Hollywood's not even trying to make money anymore. They're not, of course, trying to make it about entertainment. It's all about agendas and propaganda that they're trying to perpetuate. And they have all the big production companies and celebrities on board with the propaganda wagon. But people aren't having it anymore. They don't want to see this. And now on top of that, they're trying to replace actors with AI and script writing with AI. So this is a very interesting time we're seeing where people are becoming no longer interested in the main source of propaganda that they would ingest on a daily basis, which will definitely cause problems for the establishment.
Yeah, they're going to change it to TikTok, I'm sure, because that's the only way to get to people nowadays. But if you watch Ready Player One, I think that's kind of where we're headed, where everyone kind of lives in this weird virtual reality where you're actually living in the stacks in a fucking apartment with rats and roaches, but you just put your VR headset on and you're in another world and you can create your own avatar and all this. I think that's more like what they would want to happen is a Ready Player One situation. But what's actually happening is people aren't interested in Hollywood anymore. And there's even a more convoluted aspect to inverted Hollywood where celebrities that we have grown up thinking are biological males and biological females, we're actually finding out are probably dudes and probably chicks. Right. And so I've been doing a lot of research, and I'm not saying this out of hatred. I'm doing this as a journalist, a researcher, what have you. If you look at the skeletal structure in any skeleton that you dig up in mummies, ancient Egypt, whatever, they can tell the difference between a female and a male based on bone structure, pelvis, etc. So what people have started doing is taking some of these Hollywood celebrities that we know and love and analyzing their bone structure. And what's coming out is that most of these super hot chicks that, oh my God, Jennifer Aniston, Angelina Jolie, XYZ, they actually have male bone structure. Whether you want to believe that or not, it's up to you. The researchers are coming out with this and saying if this person had no flesh on their bones whatsoever and I analyzed their skeleton, I'm telling you that's a biological male. And a lot of the men are actually biological females. And one that everybody likes to bring up is Michelle Obama. Right? Everyone likes to bring that one up. But what they also
I saw that Ellen appearance, man. That was something swinging down there.
You're right. But there's also Cher, Sonny and Cher.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting video clips of her before and after, and her child is now transgender. And there's a lot of people who have looked at OJ's wife, forgetting her name, Nicole Brown Simpson.
Yeah, okay.
So she actually has the skeletal structure of a biological male. And you say, oh, but they have kids together. Don't get me started on the kids because there's a lot of shit going around about surrogates and actually growing children and why do these kids look more like the handlers than the parents kind of situations. So it doesn't matter that you saw them pregnant or that looked like they had a bump. They've been using bumps in Hollywood movies forever long. They can make someone look pregnant. That's like a sleight of hand trick. But what I will tell you is when you go down that rabbit hole, you would be surprised some of the names that they bring up that you would say there's no way that's a dude. There's no freaking way that's a dude. And researchers and scientists will tell you biologically from their bone structure, it's probably a guy. And I think it's to make the mind become attracted to the opposite sex. And then we wonder why there's such a thing about homosexuality, transgender, whatever, why it's on the rise, pride movement, yada, yada, yada. And I'm not saying it's wrong, right, black, white, whatever. I'm just saying it's on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that they would love to program let's say you, for example, watch a movie and you become attracted to biological men, and you don't actually consciously becoming attracted to biological men. I don't consciously know that I'm becoming attracted to biological females, but then you start questioning, maybe I'm gay, maybe I'm this, maybe I'm that. It's because you've been programmed to see a certain bone structure and become attracted.
Do you think that there is an overall occult aspect to some of these agendas, mainly transhuman agenda? I've heard the possibility that what these globalists and elitists want is to eventually be able to create the perfect androgynous sexless human that they believe we once were in this other realm or a different time, that we need to get back to this perfect being of neither male nor female, and that's part of what is being rolled out. What do you think about that?
You nailed it. You nailed it. That's exactly what the point is. And I think that people get so offended when they hear me talking about that stuff, like, oh, you hate gay people or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the dark occult. I'm talking about inversion. The dark occult works on perversion, inversion, and this is ritualistic in nature. And it has nothing to do about hating a certain demographic of people. I'm talking about something that's way beyond that. I'm talking about something that's actually ritualistic. And what the end goal is probably everyone looking like a Barbie with kind of ambiguous genitalia. And you're not really either or sex. I really think that could be part of the plan.
Yeah, we live in incredible times right now. I do have hope because I see so many people waking up to this, questioning the narrative more and more every day. More people are coming to our side of history. But do you have hope? Do you have hope that we could possibly skew the timeline that we're on?
I am not black-pilled in any means, but what I will say is, leaning towards Christianity, I think that we will reach an apocalyptic level in our society. I think that we are racing towards end of times, quote unquote. I think that all of this has to happen in order to bring about revelation, or whatever you want to call it. I think that there will not only be a physical face-off, but a spiritual one as well. And good and bad are racing towards the same finish line. And the bad, if you will, are trying to take as many down with them as possible, because misery loves company. And the more that they can corrupt, the more that they feel like they've done their job.
100%. Julia, this was awesome. We're definitely going to have to do this again. There's so much more we can discuss. But before you go, let the audience know where to find all your content.
Thank you for that. Yes. So I'm Julia again. I host the Cosmic Peach podcast, and I'm available wherever you listen to podcasts. I also have a Patreon for more exclusive content. I'm on YouTube and Instagram at cosmic.peach.podcast. And thank you so much.
Yes, this was great. We'll definitely have to do it again. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We'll talk again tomorrow. See y'all then.